Welcome back. Let's start with the probability. We will discuss what is probability. We have already discussed this in previous video, but now we will go in detail, terms by terms. So first we'll start what is event. In probability, an event is any combination of outcomes. Uppercase letter like A and B represent events. For example, if the experiment is to flip one fair coin, event A might be getting at most one head. So if you have to write P of A for example, okay, I'll change the pen for the highlighter. Let's see if it works. So for example, P of A, yeah. This is how you will write your event. So this is your event. Probability of A, probability of event A. You can have probability of event B as well. Like how many times you will flip and how many times you will get tail. Sample space. What is sample space? A set of all possible outcomes. So in a flip coin, how many outcomes you can have? You can have head and tail. In dice, for example, if you roll a dice, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can have 6 outcomes. So your sample space in a dice is 6. If you're having a card, it's 52. An experiment is called sample space. We shall donate sample space by S. Don't worry about this because usually this can be like, in different instructors use different terminologies. So they can use anyway this thing. So for example, in this one, S of sample space, over here they have mentioned S and S. So sample space equals to head and tails, where H equals to head, T equals to tails. Now, let's understand the probability versus likelihood. What is the difference between them? Probability attaches to possible results. Likelihood attaches to hypothesis. This can also come for your MCQs as well. Likelihood is always related to hypothesis, whereas probability is always result, like how many results you can get, the answers to the results. There are only 11 possible results, 0 to 10 correct predictions. The actual result will always be the one and only one the possible result. So you have, for example, there was like 11 possible results. In that you can have 10 of them will only be predictions. 10 of them can be wrong, but one of them will be the right answer. So let's understand this in detail and we will create a difference. So what's the difference between probability and likelihood? If I flip a fair coin, I'll remove this. I'll put that as a pen so I can see this. If I flip a pair of coin 10 times, what is the probability of it landing head up every time? So you flipping a coin 10 times, you can have 10 times. You can get like answers 10 times as well. Given the fixed parameter p equals to 0.5, what is the probability of different outcomes? Different outcomes. So whenever you flip a coin, you can have either head or tail. Yeah. You can have either head or tail. So you can have, so in this, it's asking like 10 times if you flip. So how many probability, how many times you can get head? You can get 10 times head. You can get 10 times tail. Probability adds up to 1. The sum of all probabilities is always equals to 1. Now, what is likelihood? I flipped a coin 10 times and obtained 10 heads. Now, see the difference? In this, we were talking about the results. This is now we are talking about the hypothesis. What is the likelihood that the coin is fair? So this is the hypothesis basically. Given the fixed outcome data, so what's your data? That you have flipped it 10 times and you got 10 heads. That's your data. What is the likelihood of different parameter values? Likelihood do not add up to 1. If you remember this, you can always create a difference. In probability is always equals to 1, like I just said, and likelihood is not always add up to 1. Hypothesis, parameter values are comparing using likelihood values. Higher is better. The higher is better, the lower is worse. That's how you do the hypothesis. We will discuss a full topic on hypothesis, in which we will discuss how to create hypothesis, alternated hypothesis, null hypothesis, all that. Now let's discuss another term of probability, which is known as experiment. So we have discussed outcome, sample space, event. Now we are discussing experiment. What is experiment? An experiment is a method by which an observation or measurement is obtained. If you doing it this first time, you might can, like, for school leavers or school levels, you can get this kind of a question. Difference between experiment, what's the difference between outcome, event, sample space? So they might give you four things and you need to create a match. For example of experiment are making a measurement of the day highest temperature, rolling a die and observing the number of that appear on the top, recording the effectiveness of a certain drug administered to a patient in a hospital. So what's happening in all these three? It's all experiment. When you doing it, when you flipping a coin, that's an experiment. When you flip a coin, that's an experiment. A result of an experiment is an outcome. When you get the result, that's an outcome. What's your sample space? Head and tail. This is your sample space, like we just discussed. And what is the event? This is whole known as event. That's why you mentioned P of A equals to. We'll discuss that later as well. How do we do that? Okay. Now let's discuss this. In fact, we'll come back later and we will discuss in the next lecture about mutual probability and mutual exclusive and all that.